Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling ellipsis in French grammar.
Ooh, ellipsis.
Yeah. It's one of those things that makes French sound so smooth.
Yeah, it's kind of like a magic trick almost.
Yeah, like words just disappear.
But the meaning is still there.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to kind of like fill in the blanks.
Right, and it's something that native French speakers do all the time.
Yeah. And you know, if you're trying to sound more natural and fluent in French,
Absolutely.
it's definitely a key skill to master.
It's like a secret code.
Yeah. It's a secret code to French fluency.
Right.
And you know, if you're thinking about like taking that pronunciator certification on ellipsis,
Right.
this deep dive is for you.
Absolutely. This is going to give you like the foundation you need.
Yeah, so let's start with the basics. Like why is ellipsis so important in French? I mean, we drop words in English sometimes too.
Yeah, but in French it's like way more common.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually like a really important part of how the language works.
So it's not just like laziness or something.
No. It's very intentional. And it's all about like creating this kind of elegance and efficiency in the language.
So it's like they're trying to say as much as possible with as few words as possible.
Exactly. Like a beautiful poem almost.
Oh, wow.
It's not like English where we're very explicit.
Okay.
We state everything very clearly.
Right.
French is more about like understanding the context.
And filling in the blanks.
Exactly. So you have to be really good at reading between the lines.
Okay. I'm starting to see why this could be tricky.
Yeah, for non-native speakers, it can be one of the most challenging things.
Especially because like our textbooks, they don't always reflect
Right.
how people actually speak.
They give you all the rules.
Right.
But then you go out into the real world and it's like,
Yeah, where are all the words?
where'd all the words go? Exactly. So we're going to like dive into all the different types of ellipsis.
Right.
Subject ellipsis, verb ellipsis.
Let's start with subject ellipsis.
Okay.
I'm constantly noticing that like the subject pronoun je like just disappears all the time.
Yeah, especially in spoken French.
Yeah, like in my textbook, it's always there.
Yeah, every sentence starts with je.
But then I listen to native speakers and it's like, poof, gone.
Gone.
So what's the deal with that?
Well, it's all about like being concise.
Okay.
So if it's obvious who's doing the action,
Right.
you don't really need to say je.
So like instead of saying je vais au magasin,
Right.
I'm going to the store.
You might just hear vais au magasin,
Okay.
to the store.
So they just drop the je.
Yeah, it's implied.
It's like a secret handshake.
Right. Like we know who's talking.
You know who's going to the store.
Exactly.
Okay. And this is just for je, or can other subject pronouns disappear too?
Oh, it happens with all of them. Tu, il. They can all vanish if it's clear from the context.
Wow. So it's like a whole game of like missing pronouns
Right.
that you have to figure out.
But there are some rules, of course.
Okay, good.
So we'll get into those later.
Yeah, because I don't want to just be randomly dropping pronouns.
Yeah, no.
And then like sounding totally weird.
You gotta know when you can do it and when you can't.
Right.
All right, let's move on to verb ellipsis.
All right. Verb ellipsis.
Now, this one is really interesting because it's like, how can a sentence even function without a verb?
It's like a car without an engine.
Exactly. But sometimes in French, the verb can be implied.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's say you're at a restaurant and your friend says, femme.
Hungry.
Yeah, they're not saying, are you hungry?
Okay.
But you understand that that's what they mean.
Right. Because like, why else would they just say hungry?
Exactly. So the verb to be is implied.
Okay. So it's like the verb is there.
It's there in spirit.
And spirit, even if it's not spoken.
Oh, it's like a ghost verb. A ghost verb. I like that.
All right. So we've got subject ellipsis. We've got verb ellipsis.
Right.
What about other parts of speech? Like, do pronouns get to play the disappearing act too?
Oh, absolutely. Pronouns are like masters of ellipsis,
No.
especially object pronouns.
Okay.
There are certain rules about when you can drop them and when you can't.
Okay. So it's not just like a free-for-all.
No. There's a method to the madness.
Right.
And we'll dive into those rules in more detail later.
Okay. Because I'm definitely going to need some help with that.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky.
Okay. But I'm feeling more confident already.
Good. That's what we want.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how ellipsis is like this key to understanding
Right.
how French really works.
It's not just about the words that are spoken.
Right.
It's about the words that are left unsaid.
It's like reading between the lines.
Exactly. And that's what makes French so fascinating.
And challenging.
And challenging.
But in a good way.
In a good way.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. We've talked about why ellipsis is important.
Right.
We've touched on some of the different types.
Subject ellipsis, verb ellipsis.
And we've hinted at the fact that pronouns are going to play a big role.
They're going to be the stars of the show.
All right. Well, I can't wait to learn more about these disappearing pronouns.
Yeah, stay tuned.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
All right, so we're back and ready to dive deeper into the world of ellipsis.
I'm excited to tackle those pronouns. They seem to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
They really are the chameleons of French grammar.
Okay, so before we get lost in the pronoun jungle, can we recap why ellipsis can be such a headache for non-native speakers?
Sure. One of the biggest challenges is that ellipsis often breaks the traditional sentence structures that we learn in textbooks.
Right. We're used to seeing like a subject, a verb, an object all neatly lined up.
Exactly. But ellipsis is like, nope, we don't need all that.
And it's up to us to figure out what's missing.
Exactly. You have to become a linguistic detective.
Using all those context clues and intonation and like nonverbal cues.
Precisely. It's like solving a puzzle.
A grammar puzzle.
A grammar puzzle, exactly.
Oh, well, I'm ready to put on my detective hat.
Great. Let's start with object pronouns.
Okay. Object pronouns.
So you'll often see object pronouns being omitted when they follow a preposition.
Okay, I think I've seen that.
Like, for example, in the phrase, je pense à toi.
I'm thinking of you.
You can actually drop the toi.
Really?
Yeah, so it becomes, je pense à toi.
Huh. So the preposition is like doing double duty.
It is. It's indicating the relationship between the verb and the missing object pronoun.
Like a placeholder.
Exactly. And this is a super important concept to grasp for the pronunciator certification.
Okay, making a note of that. Prepositions are key.
Yes, they are.
All right, so we've talked about object pronouns. What about those tricky reflexive verbs?
Ah, yes. Reflexive verbs always add a little spice to things.
They really do like trying to figure out which pronoun goes where.
Exactly. But with ellipsis, it's actually quite logical.
Oh, is it?
So remember, with a reflexive verb, the action is reflected back on the subject.
Right, like, je me lave, I wash myself.
Exactly, and in this case, you can't drop the me.
Because then it would just be je lave, which means I wash something else.
Exactly. The reflexive pronoun is essential to convey the right meaning.
Got it. So reflexive pronouns are usually essential for reflexive verbs.
Exactly, unless it's like a super idiomatic expression, but we won't worry about those for now.
Okay, phew.
So we've covered direct and indirect object pronouns, reflexive pronouns. Are there any other types of pronouns that we need to be aware of with ellipsis?
Ooh, good question.
Well, there are also demonstrative pronouns and possessive pronouns that can be used in elliptical constructions.
Okay, like those celui, ci, cela pronouns.
Exactly. They often step in when a noun is omitted.
So it's like they're saying, hey, remember that noun we were just talking about? This pronoun refers back to that.
Precisely. It's all about avoiding repetition and making the sentences flow smoothly.
And what about possessive pronouns like le mien, la tienne, les leurs?
Those two, they can also replace nouns in elliptical constructions.
Wow, pronouns are like the superheroes of French grammar.
They really are. They wear many hats.
Okay, so we've tackled pronouns. Now, what about negation? Can we ever drop the ne?
Ah, yes, the infamous ne.
It always seems to be causing trouble.
Well, in spoken French, the ne often goes on vacation.
Really?
Especially in informal conversations, but the second part of the negation, like pas or plus, usually sticks around.
So instead of saying je ne comprends pas,
you might just hear comprends pas.
It's like the ne is hiding, but its presence is still felt.
Exactly. It's another example of how context and intonation help us fill in the blanks.
Speaking of blanks, what about compound tenses? How does ellipsis work with those multi-part verbs?
Well, with compound tenses, we can sometimes omit the auxiliary verb avoir or être if the context is clear.
Okay, so like instead of saying j'ai fini mon travail,
you might just hear fini mon travail.
Huh, so we just skip the auxiliary and jump straight to the action.
Exactly. But remember, the past participle still has to agree in gender and number.
Right, those pesky agreement rules.
They never go away, even with ellipsis.
But what happens when the direct object is also missing because of ellipsis?
Ah, that's a good question.
It's like a double mystery.
It is. You have to solve for both the missing verb and the missing object to get the agreement right.
Okay, so how do we do that?
The key is to reconstruct the full sentence in your mind, picture what the missing elements would be, and then apply the agreement rules.
Wow. So it's like we're playing detective, but with grammar.
Exactly. You have to use your logic and your knowledge of French to crack the code.
This is definitely a workout for my brain.
It is, but it's a good workout. It's making you a better French speaker.
I'm starting to see that, and I'm actually feeling kind of excited about mastering ellipsis.
That's great. It's a challenging but rewarding skill to learn.
It really is, and I think I'm ready to tackle even more complex scenarios.
Well, then let's move on to the subjunctive mood. Are you ready for that?
Bring it on. I'm feeling brave.
All right, so are you ready to face the subjunctive mood?
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's do it.
That's the spirit. Now, when it comes to ellipsis and the subjunctive, the main thing to remember is that in certain clauses, like subordinate clauses, the verb can sometimes just disappear.
Oh no, not more disappearing verbs.
Well, it happens, but only if the context is clear. Like, take the phrase, il faut que je parte maintenant. I have to leave now.
Right.
In spoken French, you might just hear, il faut que parte maintenant.
So the je and the verb part, they just vanish.
Exactly, but you still understand the meaning, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know who has to leave and when.
Right. The conjunction cue and the context, they give us all the clues we need.
So it's like the subjunctive verb is there in spirit.
Exactly. It's another example of how French prioritizes efficiency and elegance in communication.
I'm seeing that pattern everywhere with ellipsis, less is more.
You got it. And remember, mastering ellipsis isn't just about memorizing rules, it's about developing a feel for the language.
It's like learning to read between the lines like a true French speaker.
Exactly. You start to anticipate what's coming even when it's not explicitly stated.
So are there ever times when we should avoid using ellipsis?
That's a great question, and it shows you're really thinking about how to use ellipsis effectively.
Well, I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm doing.
Of course. Well, in formal writing, like in academic essays or business letters, you generally want to avoid ellipsis.
That makes sense. You don't want any misunderstandings in those situations.
Exactly. Clarity is key.
So ellipsis is more for everyday conversations and informal writing.
Precisely. And even then, you want to use it carefully.
Don't overdo it.
Exactly. When in doubt, it's better to be clear than to be concise.
Oh, okay. Good advice. So how can we practice ellipsis and make it sound more natural?
Well, that's where Pronunciator comes in. The exercises there are designed to help you master all the nuances of ellipsis.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten about those exercises.
You'll get to see ellipsis in action in real-life scenarios and dialogues, and you'll learn how to use it correctly.
And once we complete those exercises and get that certification, we'll have proof that we've conquered ellipsis.
Exactly. That certification is a badge of honor, a sign that you've really mastered this challenging aspect of French grammar.
So to everyone out there who's working toward that pronunciator certification, don't give up.
Embrace the challenge of ellipsis experiment, make mistakes, and learn from them.
It's like learning to ride a bike. It takes time and practice.
Exactly. But once you get it, you'll be able to navigate French conversations with so much more confidence and fluency.
It's like a secret weapon for sounding more like a native speaker.
I love that analogy, a secret weapon for French fluency.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our ellipsis deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We talked about why ellipsis is so important in French, and we explored different types of ellipsis.
We looked at subject ellipsis, verb, ellipsis pronoun, ellipsis.
We even tackled negation and compound tenses and the subjunctive mood.
We really did cover it all.
And I think we've given our listeners all the tools they need to tackle those pronunciator exercises with confidence.
Remember, ellipsis is a journey. The more you immerse yourself in the French language, the more natural it will become.
So keep practicing, keep listening, keep learning, and most importantly, keep having fun with French.
Absolutely.
Au revoir, everyone, and happy ellipsising.
Oh.